wasn't the modern Europa Hotel, but the Crown Bar opposite, whose stained glass windows and gaslight had been fixtures since the 1840s. The bar was a gem, owned and operated by the National Trust, its crystal sea patterns and ship anchors and Celtic terns utterly destroyed and in pieces on the pavement. The Europa, the most bombed hotel in Europe, had been redesigned with crumple zones to absorb the impact of explosions. And now it had done well on its first field test, the whole building intact, except for the windows on the lower floors where the hijacked car had erupted with most effect. But the Belfast glaziers couldn't complain about that, for with Christmas coming, the payday from surrounding buildings would be enough to keep their own in Islay whiskey and Belgian chocolate and Italian shoes. And we didn't care. It was a job, there was money at the end, and it was heavy lifting, which is a tricky thing if you don't look out. We laid down a long sheet for a lobby door, and an AP man snapped our pick and said it was a good one and walked back with us behind the police lines. We chatted, and he said he was from Jacksonville, Florida, and couldn't believe how dark it was so soon. And I explained, having taken geography, that Belfast was on the same latitude as Moscow and the panhandle of Alaska, and the nights were long in summer, and in winter you paid the price. The AP man jogged down to the offices of the Belfast Telegraph. The army boys got in their Land Rovers and drove to base. The coppers yawned and changed shifts, and the crowd, such as it was drifting away now, and back to other occupations. We laughed when our photograph appeared on the front page of the Evening Telegraph. There we were, rebuilding the proud city, the indomitable faces of Belfast. "Their spirit will not be broken," a headline proclaimed. "Aye, just our bloody backs," a man called Spider said. But we walked with swagger as the vans unloaded the last of the big plates and the side windows and the boards for the pub. We worked. The rain eased, the wind changed, and papers, fragments, bits of the hijacked car, and pulverized brick and glass coated us as we moved. The dismal stuff of explosion so familiar now in many cities. A confusion of words and particles that the poet Kieran Carson calls Belfast confetti. Putting in the windows would take weeks, but that was the purview of professionals. At the end of the day, our work was done, the glass unloaded, and we were paid off, with a wee bonus for no breakages and no thefts. A few of us saved the dough for Christmas presents, but most went to the Mermaid Tavern for a pint or two. We drank and bought rounds of the black stuff, and ate pickled eggs and Irish stew. I left to do some shopping before the late-night closing. I got myself a couple of books and the new Nirvana record. I bought Nan a winter coat. She's been a chocolate addict since wartime rationing, so I couldn't resist a giant bar of Toblerone. On the bus back I met Tommy Little, whom I'd known in the army. Tommy staying in and making sergeant, and me getting kicked out and ending up in the brig in, of all places, St. Helena, a nasty wind-swept shithole whose other famous military prisoner, Napoleon, died mysteriously. So you could say I got off lightly. We laughed, and Tommy said that I was a wild man, and I said he was on his way to General. Another bus, the road, the long walk up the hill, the ever-present conspiracy of fog and rain. Nan was watching Coronation Street. No problem to smuggle in a hidden coat. We had a late dinner of Ulster fry, potato bread and bacon, soda bread and egg. She only ever watched the soaps, so she hadn't even heard about the morning bombing. I didn't enlighten her. She would have been upset. I produced the Toblerone, and Nan practically laughed with delight. "Oh, you shouldn't have," she said. "I picked up a wee bit of work today," I explained, and she made the tea and we ate the chocolate, and I helped her get the last clues in her crossword book. The darkness filled. The fires went out. I showered and retired to bed. The late-night noises of the house and the street began around me. The pipes in the attic water tank, the dogs communing across the town. Mrs. Clausen yelling with only half a heart, "Were ye on the dander again, you drunken scut?" Below me, the creaking of boards and beams as the chimney took away the last heat from the fire and the house chilled, and the floor timbers shrank and cooled. And I was gone, off in a deep, hard-work sleep. Late next morning, a man from the Doyle office was waiting for me. A big man with glasses, tweed jacket, blue shirt, red tie and a clipboard, but who otherwise, in different circumstances entirely, could possibly have been an okay sort of bloke. He should really have been a skinny wee fella with greasy hair, but this was a tough part of town, and he was here on business. He was sipping Nan's tea and eating the last piece of Toblerone. I sat down, and the man had news. It turned out that my picture in the Belfast Telegraph had been enough to convince the Department of Health and Social Security that I was not unemployed at all, but was in fact engaged in active work while claiming unemployment benefit. It was impossibly unlucky that my first bit of doing the double in months had been exposed in Northern Ireland's most widely circulated newspaper, on page 1 too. But still, the boys in the DHSS are not that smart, and I had the feeling that they would never have found it but for some sleek-it nosy neighbour tipping them off. "What if I deny that's me?" I suggested. "Are you denying it's you?" "I don't know." "Well then," the man said, adjusting his glasses. Nan offered us more tea. I said no, but the man took a dish, as well as some of her drop scones. "How old are you again, Mr. Forsythe?" he asked after a while. 19. "No longer a juvenile. Dear, oh dear," he said ominously. "Look, what exactly are you saying I did wrong?" "You were claiming unemployment benefit while working on a building site. I'm afraid, Mr. Forsythe, you'll have to go to court." "Yeah, but what for?" "For benefit fraud, mate," the man scoffed. But I didn't go to court. I pleaded guilty the next week and signed off benefit forever. I was unemployed, had been so for over a year, and now I was never going to get any more money. I moped for another week. Nan couldn't support me on her pension, so there was no choice but to do what my cousin Leslie said I should have done 12 months earlier, which was to work for her brother-in-law who worked for Darkey White in America. Darkey would pay for my ticket, and I'd pay him back in time served. I didn't want to go to America. I didn't want to work for Darkey White. I had my reasons. But I went. 1. White boy in Harlem. I opened my eyes. The train tracks, the river, a wall of heat. Unbearable white sunlight smacking off the railings, the street, and the god-awfulness of the buildings. Steam from the permanent Con Ed hole at the corner. Gum and graffiti tags on the sidewalk. People on the platform. Jesus Christ, were they really in sweaters and wool hats? Garbage everywhere, newspapers, bits of food, clothes, soda cans, beer cans. The traffic slow and angry. Diesel fumes from tubercular bus engines. Heat and poison from the exhausts on massive, bruised gypsy cabs. I'm smoking. I'm standing here on the elevated subway platform looking down at all this enormous nightmare, and I'm smoking. My skin can barely breathe. I'm panting. The back of my t-shirt is thick with sweat. 100 degrees, 90% relative humidity. I'm complaining about the pollution you can see in the sky above New Jersey, and I'm smoking Camels. What an idiot. Details. Dominican guys on the west side of Broadway, black guys on the east. The Dominicans are in long cotton pants, sneakers, string t-shirts, gold chains. The black guys are in neat blue or yellow or red t-shirts with baggy denim shorts and better sneakers. The black guys are more comfortable. It's their turf for now. The Dominicans are newcomers. It's like West Side Bloody Story. In the deep pocket of my baggy shorts, I start playing absently with the safety on my pistol. A very stupid thing to do. I stop myself.